Well, as I said, this is the week or the last week in which you may get your nominations in to stand for local government. Our triennial faith, I guess, that when the people that we elect will actually make a blind bit of difference, and that they won't simply leave it to non-elected staff to carry on running the local government like they have been for the last, I don't know, 30 years anyhow. Certainly as much time as I've been, unless you get a very strong mayor as you might get in, say, or somewhere like Auckland, for example, at the moment, or where in actual fact you have the policy direction coming out of the mayoral office, which is fair enough, because after all you do elect them rather than now the chief executives. Nominations will be Friday noon. You've got to be in by Friday noon. And good on you, those who do enter it, because as I say, it's sort of it's the triumph of faith over experience, it has to be said. But whatever happens, and whoever gets elected in October, I think the elections finally will be known, and you'll get your voting papers sometime in the middle of September. Whatever happens, the question of the composition of local government in New Zealand will be huge, and it's been a refrain, it has to be said, for probably 2 or 3 years now, as to what local government should look like. And there is a perception that local government is broken in this country. And when I mean broken, it can't be put together again. There aren't necessarily, that perception reads, there aren't actually any solutions rather than the recomposition, if you like, of local government in this country. It's redrafting, it's redrawing. And into that, obviously, there is the question as to whether or not regional councils will survive. I have to say, at first blush, when you look at the way in which we are governed in this country, a population of just over 5 million people, it does seem odd that you would have those 3 tiers of government. Central government, with all its government departments and the apparatus of the state, under it regional government, which doesn't apply to all of New Zealand, I'll come to that in a second, and then territorial authorities or city or district councils under that again, and then community boards under that, I have to say. So we do appear to be, you'd have to say, over-governed, and each of those tiers is quite expensive when you think about it. You're not just paying taxation to make central government work, but you're paying rates to make regional councils work, to make district and city councils work, to make community boards work as well. You know the story, you know the argument. Some of it, but it's it's going to be a debate, no matter, and it won't go away. And no matter what the composition of councils is, one might expect, particularly as the Resource Management Act is being redrawn at the moment or redrafted, reformed, revised, thrown out the back door by the current government, that the role of regional councils in particular will change significantly. That is the piece of legislation that they are probably most responsible and accountable for. Well, Canterbury's just appointed a new chair of their regional council, Environment Canterbury, for the remainder of this term. They did, when was that election? Last year, October of last year. So it's about a year now he's been into that role. His name is Craig Pauling. He is the chair of the council. He is a councillor who was, in actual fact, elected from the Christchurch City, or one of the wards there. And he is very much at the heart of trying to find some sort of response from local government, and for regional councils in particular, to the very question of their continued existence. And he joins us now. Great to have you on, Craig. Thanks so much for joining us.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, Michael. Great to be here.
Good on you. Listen, first things first, the future of regional government. You would have heard my introduction. We've got unitary authorities in New Zealand, Auckland, Gisborne, Marlborough, Nelson, Tasman, Chatham Islands, I think, is another one.
Chatham Islands.
First question I'd ask is there still a place for regional government in New Zealand when we've got this sort of strange hybrid system of regional and unitary councils? So that's the first question. But the second question, I guess, which is part of that is it time for regional councils to look at themselves and see if they are the right structure indeed for the regions that they serve?
I think what we've been working through here at the Canterbury Regional Council is, yeah, there's definitely something to be said about the regional scale, and what that could do. Um, and the other thing that you'll be aware of, Michael, is just the functions that the region has. Yes, you're right that unitaries in some parts of the countries are working, and they can do those jobs. Although we look into them a bit more deeply in Auckland and top of the South and Gisborne, there'll always be issues that maybe they can't get to as well as they would if they had a more regional view. But yeah, I definitely think there is a space for the regional council, and like you said, a regional scale entity, and I'll get to that in terms of some of the discussions we've had here at our council. In terms of, do regional councils need to look at themselves? Of course they do, but so do territorial authorities, and so does central government. I think we all need to look at ourselves, and it's not just about regional councils and that regional government space. It's actually about all governance and all government in New Zealand and Aotearoa, and how we do that better. Because ultimately, it's about what do we do for the future of our country, our future of our cities, our towns, and our regions, and how we get the best out of the resources we have. We're a big country. Like people say, oh, we're a small country. Yes, we're small in numbers in terms of population, but we're as big as the UK in terms of scale. So that geography, and especially in your part of the world, Michael, you'll know that's important. So how do we get that balance right? I think is important.
Yeah, except one of the things that frustrates me, I have to say, is that we keep on duplicating councils and all of the apparatus, particularly bureaucratic, that goes with it. And a good example would be, in actual fact, can I just give you your own council in Canterbury, ECAN, and the Otago Regional Council South, and you've got the West Coast Regional Council as well. I think you've got four. There are four in the South Island, I think. They're all
Well, four
silos.
plus, yeah,
They're all
yeah.
silos, Craig. Every one of them. They exist almost in isolation to each other. There's very little sharing of services. They've got different chief executives, they've got different plannings, they've got different consents, and yet really they do the same stuff in each of those areas. Why is that?
Well, the same can be said for territorial authorities, and that's the discussion that we've actually had at the Mayoral Forum here in Canterbury. Is, yeah, we have to do 10 annual reports and 10 annual plans, 10 long-term plans, sorry, 11 in Canterbury if you count the TAs plus the region. And yeah, why wouldn't we do things in a shared service space? That's just, I suppose, looking at the TA and regional model. Across regional councils, I think the same discussion is being had. We have a South Island Regional Chairs Forum that gets together probably quarterly, and we're trying to think about that space. But I suppose the issue is you keep getting stuck with the functions that you have, and you ultimately resort to them. And so the idea to think beyond that um, becomes, doesn't get to the top of the table all the time. One thing I would say is, we had a recent submission a few months ago now on the biosecurity changes, and we appealed to government to allow us to do it across regions, because at the moment biosecurity can only be done within a region, and we share a some common pests in terms of wallabies and wilding pines. And at the moment we do coordinate across the Waitaki River in particular, but it is a bit annoying when the legislation doesn't provide for that, and so that gets a bit tricky. I heard another example last week around regional transport committees, and how some of the unitaries up on the top of the south can't actually have a proper committee across their councils because the legislation doesn't provide for it. So these are things that need to be reset at a government level, central government level, to make the laws applicable so we can do more collaboration. But ultimately, I think, Michael, we just need to look at the whole system
Yeah,
and
you
go,
see,
is
and this is where I guess I tend to differ. But when I was mayor, I used to ignore all that legislation. I used to go, well, I know we've got a function, but you just go and do it anyhow. I mean, nothing stops you doing any of the things you've
yeah,
just said, Craig. You're not
I
bound
agree.
by you know, are you?
Mm. I agree. And it's just when you get outside of that non-statutory stuff that, some people of your council go, oh, that's not our statutory function, so don't go do that. That can happen. But I'm a believer, I'm a bit like you, Michael. I believe that we should be going outside the square. We shouldn't be confined by those things. So definitely that's the work. And that's why I've been so proactive in this local government space, to be upfront about it and say, yeah, it is broken. especially the funding models are broken. Some of the things, and we've managed to get our whole council to agree to these positions, that let's look at it. And so I've been pretty proactive down here saying, let's look at ourselves. I'm not
Okay.
interested in holding on to my job just for the sake of it. Yeah.
The other thing that it seems to me, I mean, I'm as I say, I sit on a regional council. I attended those South Island Regional Council meetings when I was a deputy chair 3 years ago. I have to say,
Mm.
nothing's advanced in 3 years or 4 years since I was there. And that is this: um, are regional councils actually working with each other at all? I,
Yeah,
there is
we
no
are.
sort of there's no league table, there's no comparison of staff numbers, there's no, I don't know, best practice guide. It's like I say, it's almost as if we exist in splendid isolation from each other, and
Mm.
I'm not sure
Well,
that's a brilliant idea, is it?
yeah. Well, no, it's not. I mean, shared services and working together is definitely a way forward.